if may problems, doon tayo sa GC ha for technical issues. Let's open the GWB 2025 group chat, no? For communications with the organizers. Please do thumbs up.
We're live na po. We're live na po. Waiting na lang po for the sharing of our general PowerPoint. Ma'am Ellen, may sound po to.
Cannot hear anything.
Hintayin na lang po tayo sa main technical.
Thank you for your patience. We are about to begin in 5 minutes. Good morning, everyone. Let's start. Welcome to the Global Women's Breakfast 2025. This event is held together with the International Day of Women and Girls in Science, bringing us together to break barriers and promote equity in science. We invite you to enjoy your breakfast, settle in, and engage in the meaningful discussions ahead.
Welcome, everyone. I am Charilyn P. Paclar, and I'm delighted to kick off today's session with all of you. Joining me are two wonderful women of science, Miss Sophia Rain Monterola and Miss Fable A. Georgievsky. We put together will leave an engaging and valuable experience for all of you. Please remember the certificate of our organizing partners, the Department of Chemistry at the University of the joining us via Zoom and watching our Facebook live stream on the PAASE and CMU pages.
Next, to kick off today's program, we'll begin with a special video presentation by PAASE. These videos will give you a glimpse into the work being done to create more inclusive and equitable science communities.
The inspiring work of PAASE sets the perfect stage for today's central theme, accelerating equity in science. To further highlight this global initiative, we're excited to share the GWB video. This video showcases how communities across the world are breaking down barriers and fostering a more inclusive scientific community.
Welcome, everyone, to IUPAC Global Women's Breakfast, GWB 2025, where we are accelerating equity in science. You are part of a network of more than 30,000 people overcoming barriers to gender equality in science, technology, engineering, and maths. Your efforts also support the UN Sustainable Development Goals, gender equality, and reduced inequalities. If this is the first time joining the GWB, you may be wondering how this all got started. The GWB founder, Professor Mary Garson, asked, "How can we celebrate Marie Curie on the centenary of her Nobel Prize in Chemistry, the IYC, and connect groups in support of women scientists?" Her idea was simply breakfast. Having breakfast together is a great way to network. To take networking one step further, she encouraged groups to interact with each other and create a handshake that traveled around the world.
My idea was quite simple. Women know how and when to network. They go out to breakfast. And to take networking one step further, I encouraged groups to interact with each other using social media, and in this way, we created a handshake that traveled around the globe.
The first global breakfast was an amazing success, with roughly 5,000 participants at 100 events in 40 countries, a community of organizations in support of women in chemistry. In 2019, the Global Breakfast returned as part of the centenary of the International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry and the International Year of the Periodic Table, with over 10,000 participants at 200 events in 50 countries. The Global Breakfast is now an event that happens on a single day each year. The first events begin in New Zealand, progressing around the globe, ending in Hawaii. The influence of the GWB has grown over the years with an increasing number of events and participating countries. In 2025, the GWB will have hosted more than 2,000 total events in 100 countries. And the GWB is an official event of the International Year of Quantum Science and Technology. Advances in quantum technology will be crucial to achieving many of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. This year, we have challenged you to create inspiring videos in support of GWB and IYQ and post them on your favorite social media platforms. Check out the details on the website. Don't worry, you can still submit your videos through March 31st for another round of awards. Here are the videos selected for today's welcome.
Science and technology have the power to change the world, but only when everyone gets a seat at the table. Imagine a future where diversity and equity drive innovation, where science truly reflects the creativity and brilliance of all people.
We hope that you are inspired to make a difference where you are today. What are some things that you can do? Take time today to celebrate successes and achievements. Inspire the next generation to pursue careers in science. Support efforts to close the gender gap in science. Most importantly, reach out and make a connection with other GWB groups to see how you can accelerate progress together. A great way to connect with other groups later this year is to attend the IUPAC World Chemistry Congress happening in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia this July. Find out more at iupac2025.org. We thank everyone for hosting a breakfast event today. Your efforts are critical to achieving a brighter future. Thank you also to our wonderful sponsors, Royal Society of Chemistry, Bayer, American Chemical Society, De Gruyter, and Royal Australian Chemical Institute. Please plan to join us again next year for GWB 2026, happening February 10th. Have fun today and enjoy your breakfast.
It's amazing to see how this movement is truly global. As shown in the video, communities from different countries are coming together, each contributing in their own way to make science more inclusive and equitable.
And I would just like to highlight that our TikTok entry earned second prize in the Global TikTok Challenge by IOPAC relative to the GWB 2025 celebration. The video was incorporated in the GWB video that was played earlier. And speaking of global reach, I would make mention again that we are live on Facebook via
Welcome,
CMU
everyone.
and PAASE pages. So a big hello to everyone tuning in online.
Welcome, everyone.
Yes, whether you're here with us or watching from afar, we are thrilled to have you as part of this important conversation.
Now, to keep things flowing, let us take a quick look at what's ahead in today's program. Appearing on your screen is our program agenda, which will guide us through today's session. And here are our speakers for today's event.
All right, let us now formally start the program with the opening remarks from the esteemed president of PAASE. She is also a professor at the University of the Philippines, Los Baños, and our dear director in the Institute of Chemistry, UPLB, Dr. Gladys Cherish J. Completo. Dr. Completo's leadership in advocating for equity in science plays a crucial role in shaping today's conversation, and we are deeply grateful for her support. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Completo.
Thank you, Sophia. So good morning and good evening to those based abroad, to everyone joining us today for the Global Women's Breakfast 2025, co-organized by the Philippine American Academy of Science and Engineering, Central Mindanao University, and the Institute of Chemistry at UP Los Baños. It is truly an honor to welcome all of you to this gathering, held in conjunction with the United Nations International Day of Women and Girls in Science. For the past 5 years, PAASE has been hosting the Global Women's Breakfast, and it has brought together thousands of scientists, both women and men from nearly 100 countries, to discuss how we can collectively overcome barriers to gender equity in science. This year, we continue that mission under the theme, Accelerating Equity in Science. Hashtag GWB 2025 symbolizes our collective commitment to championing diversity and inclusivity in science. We recognize that achieving equity in science is not just about representation. It is about ensuring that all voices, talents, and innovations are valued and empowered. Through our speakers, we will reflect on the challenges that persist, the progress we have made, and the collaborative efforts needed to build a more inclusive and diverse scientific community. The Philippines stands as a shining example in Asia, having made significant strides towards gender parity in STEM. We are ranked 17th globally in closing the gender gap, We've witnessed an increasing number of women contributing to the STEM workforce, comprising 46% of its members. However, despite this progress, there's still work to be done. Only 12 women out of 43 national scientists is a stark reminder of the systemic barriers that exist, from stereotypes about STEM being a male-dominated field to subtle discrimination and the gender pay gap. But amidst these challenges, there's hope. International scholarships and funding are paving the way for more Filipinos, especially Filipinas, to pursue STEM courses. While they may be modest in numbers, these students are a wellspring of knowledge and innovation, contributing to sustainable development and global progress. We are called to collaborate across disciplines, institutions, and sectors, whether in universities, research organizations, industries, or policymaking, to drive meaningful change. I encourage you all to engage actively, share your insights, and be part of this global movement that envisions a future where science is truly for everyone. Once again, thank you for being here. Let us work together in building stronger networks, breaking down barriers, and paving the way for the next generation of women in science. Welcome, and let's have a productive and inspiring discussion, and let's have coffee together. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Dr. Completo, for your very inspiring words, making sure that science is for everyone. Let us now show our appreciation with a virtual round of applause. Please feel free to share your applause in the chat or give a big thumbs up to show your support. Okay, so before we continue, just a quick reminder for everyone. If you have any questions for our speakers, please feel free to drop them in the chat. We will make sure to address as many as possible during the discussion. You can include your name and the institution that you came from. Okay, it's now time to hear from our first speaker. She is a distinguished academic and researcher at the University of the Philippines, Los Baños. Known for her remarkable achievements, she is the youngest faculty member to attain the rank of Professor 12 and UP Scientist 3 at the Institute of Biological Sciences, UPLB. She earned her PhD in 2011, MS in 2003, and BS in 1999, all from UPLB. Her research has led to the discovery of over 52 species of spiders, 22 rice blackbug species, and 1 moth species. She has also published 60 papers and 2 book chapters, a passionate advocate for arthropod diversity and conservation. She contributes to science education through DOST SAY STEM modules, and additionally, she served as the faculty regent and is now the elected president of the DOST National Research Council of the Philippines, leading over 6,000 researchers. This impressive journey is led by Dr. Aimee Barrion-Dupo, affectionately known as the UPLB's Spider Woman. We are thrilled to welcome Dr. Barrion-Dupo, the President of the National Research Council of the Philippines, as she talks about stimulating a passion for women in science. So this talk will share the journey of finding a unique path in STEM with a focus on inspiring women to pursue science careers. It will highlight the value of embracing failures as learning experiences and breaking stereotypes, and showing the progress in STEM requires resilience, passion, and perseverance. Ultimately, it will encourage aspiring female scientists to pursue successful and fulfilling careers in these fields. Dr. Barrion-Dupo, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sophia. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to all of our 129 participants this morning in Zoom, and as well as those who are watching from our social media page of PAASE. And also, of course, our NRCP members who are joining online also. So as mentioned by Sophia, I'm going to discuss with you or just share with you some of a portion of my journey in stimulating a passion for women in science. So can you see my slides already?
Yes po.
Okay, thank you. So when we say STEM, normally we refer to the different disciplines like engineering, mathematics, science, and technology, but it also refers to a portion of the plan for support. So in my sharing this morning, the term STEM comes from the following: science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and also a planned part for support. So when you become a scientist, you don't really become a scientist overnight. You are a product of several mentors who support you. And for you to be able to stand tall, you need to have a good rooting system. So this includes your family members, your peers, your mentors, and this would become your enabling environment. So of course, I will trace my roots first with my parents. So I came to know entomology, that is my field of expertise, from my parents. If you look to the left of your screen, that is a photo of me, this one, and then the one wearing pink is my mom. So if you look at the photo closely, I look exactly like my mom. I'm like a photocopy of her. In fact, my nickname when I was young was carbon copy. For those of you who do not know the term carbon copy at hindi nyo pa naabutan yung term na yon, it's the paper that we used to copy when we type things on the typewriter. So that would age us a bit. But much of my training is also influenced by my dad, who studies spiders. So the reason why I came to know spiders is because I tagged along with my dad. So he taught me most of it. So both my mom and my dad are entomologists. They met because of the science of entomology. So I owe my existence to entomology. And when you're, because it's upcoming Valentine's Day, so I will tell you that you may find your partner in entomology also, because I'm married also to an entomologist. And maybe I'll explain that later. So I began working with toys that are actually tools for entomologists. I had no idea back then that they were entomologist tools. I simply assumed that they were toys used by all children, like vials, insect nets, insect pins. I came to know them early in my life, only to find out that those were not the toys of children back then. But it wasn't just my parents who influenced me in the field. In fact, my dad didn't want me to pursue entomology, mainly because there wasn't much support for basic sciences like taxonomy and systematics. So he didn't want me to go there. But my interest was in the outdoors. I love the outdoors. I love the forest. And I came to know spiders early on. So I got interested in them. So he couldn't stop me from pursuing entomology. But if you ask him now, he would not admit that he discouraged me to pursue entomology. I have a long line of mentors like Academician Cuevas and Academician Cleo Cervancia. They were influential in my development as an ecologist at the Institute of Biological Sciences. And because entomologists, we form like a network or community of like-minded individuals. I'm also mentored by husband and wife tandem of Dr. Ireneo Lit and Merdeline Lit. And the one in the middle was the late national scientist Claire Baltasar, and she was my PhD advisor. So at one point in time in my life, I didn't really want to talk about spiders anymore. It's very hard to go home and discuss spiders in the morning, spiders for lunch, and spiders in the evening. So I had to move to another field. So I chose to work on geometric moths. It's still a close relative of spiders. So I asked Dr. Claire Baltasar to take me in. And this was one of the reasons why she accepted me as her PhD advisee. So she told me that if you are going to pursue taxonomy, you have to find someone who understands your field. And that's the reason why I had to introduce her to my now current husband, who is also an entomologist. So that was the only reason why she accepted me, because she told me, your partner should be able to understand what you do. Otherwise, you wouldn't grow as a scientist. It's the reason why I married an entomologist. But it doesn't mean you produce entomologists as offsprings, as both of my sons do not like insects. So because I cannot train future entomologists in my offsprings, I have to be able to sow seeds of curiosity somewhere else. I have to expand my science somewhere else. And how do we do this? We start off with watering down some jargon. We have to be able to communicate our science well. We fertilize it with support and encouragement. And if we could expose younger scientists as early as possible, we need to do that. So how do we sow the seeds of curiosity? So I am also a member of SciComm Philippines. So we are communicators of science in different avenues. I'm not a formally trained science communicator as the rest of my friends, but I learn from them and we encourage one another. So I use the platform of social media. So I have an Instagram handle. This started during the pandemic when many individuals and many parents were asking information from me about insects and arthropods because many of us, because we were locked in our homes, they were very much curious about all the living things inside of their homes. And we were trying to teach our children at home. So I use photos from hiking in Mount Makiling to communicate and also decolonize science. So when we say decolonize science, we are trying to reduce the influence of Western references in our curriculum by using local material. For instance, the very big spiders that we find in our forest, and sometimes if we live nearby forests, we find these golden orb weaver spiders, the larger ones. And I show them this example to demonstrate the difference between male and female spiders. So instead of simply saying sexual dimorphism, I show them an illustration or a photo showing that the right side of the photo is the female and the left side of the photo is the male. And also to reinforce less fear of spiders. Many individuals are very afraid of spiders. I also show them photos of moths that I encounter from Mount Makiling that allow us to dispel ideas that moths only fly at night. There are day-flying moths. This one in particular is, I think, a new record in Mount Makiling. And I try to write a short snippet to describe the photos that I see so that we give more information. And it also helps me as a scientist practice my science communication skills because we tend to communicate science in a lengthy manner. So what we do, because we have limited space in social media, and also if you have to scroll down the text, many of us lose interest. So I try to make it a point to reduce the description to only 2 sentences in order to communicate science. We also try to use examples that can be likened to contemporary examples like Harry Potter, and we relate this to this particular caterpillar that forms a shape of a pagoda or a hat or a sorting hat like Harry Potter. Mostly to popularize also our content. And it's very important to water down the jargons to make our discussions more relatable. So instead of simply mentioning several scientific names, we try to simplify the names, but try not to over-dilute also, because in terms of science, we also have to introduce certain scientific terms. So we also need to fertilize with support and encouragement. So when we say here, I am a mentor and I'm also a mentee, we also have mentees from the UPLB Math and Science Teaching Program. So if you notice this photo, we are wearing Filipiniana. This is usually during the recognition day. It's also to emphasize that the teaching of math and science covers, or we aim to cover, the rest of the Philippines. So they wear Filipiniana during the recognition day. And this was, I think, the batch of math and science teaching program advisees more than 5 years ago. So many of them are still pursuing advanced degrees in teaching. Some are in med school, but I think from this batch, most of them continue to teaching math and science. And in terms of research, our research team, those who conduct field activities in cave arthropod research, are majority women. So we try to train as many women scientists working on arthropods, particularly cave arthropods. This is, I think, funded by Picard. This is a Nicer Caves project. And the same individuals who are conducting research are also the same individuals conducting capacity building training to our communities. So it's not just the publications that are our scientific output, it's also partnerships that we build with the community, with our stakeholders. I think this training is for Cavinti. So we trained the tour guides so that they will use science-based materials in bringing in individuals inside caves, and also it would allow them to reduce disturbances inside caves because they now have more information about the cave biodiversity in their area. So we mentioned that we have to start them young. One of the keen followers of my Instagram handle is Likha. So I'm sharing the photo with the consent of her parent or her mother, because her mother was the one who first reached out during the pandemic. So her daughter, Likha, was very much interested in insects, but she had no way of introducing insects to her child because she didn't have any references or local references on Philippine insects. So every week we exchange communications with her mom, or sometimes she even sent voice recordings of questions. Then I'll also respond to that. So it's like Mondays to Fridays, I teach college kids. During weekends, I also teach children. And sometimes I'm also asked by my advisees who are already teaching in Philippine Science High School, Calabarzon, to bring in their students during my hikes so that they could also learn on how to collect arthropods. They join me during my weekly hikes. So it's a form of informal training. So we have to expose them to these kinds of activities as early as possible. So during the pandemic, we had radio programs to exchange information about the science of entomology. We also have the NULA bus and Tuklas Siyensya, because we couldn't move around with our bus during the pandemic. So we videoed certain modules from the DOST-SEI, or the Department of Science and Technology Science Education Institute. So we developed modules about entomology to introduce them to the public, to encourage also our senior high school and junior high school students to pursue STEM careers. And it's not just me. We have a lot of DOST scholars and researchers who have crafted this particular modules. And from time to time, we are the ones to execute these modules, or we have the DOST scholars or who have graduated to launch these modules in different areas of the Philippines. And my participation as a scientist doesn't really have to include my face all the time. So we also develop modules to include Radio Escuela. So this would be a radio program, but you can also watch it online through Facebook, that discusses certain contents that are aligned for grade 3 and I think grade 5. So this targeted how to know spiders. So bakit mahalaga ang mga gagamba? And also, ano ba ang kiwot bees? So we're trying to localize scientific material to reach out to our DepEd schools. This was mainly introduced also during the pandemic, when many people were looking for more and more information. So we aligned this with the DepEd outcomes for particular grades. So after the pandemic, we continued on with the NULA bus. The NULA bus is a bus that has equipment to launch laboratory activities or even field activities all over the country. So we introduced this in schools that do not have any laboratories or are not science schools, mainly to allow individuals or students to get encouraged in STEM early on. And they're also given with a guidebook that would allow them to choose the schools and choose the fields that they want, which are aligned with STEM. So the one module would run to around 2 hours, and then the students can actually interact with the scientists themselves. And when the NULA bus was brought to Los Baños, I asked my mentees to serve as trainers also. So when I'm not available, they could readily replace me as a trainer. So the photo on the left is a resin of a head of an arthropod to show them the variation or the diversity of the different mouth parts of insects. And also to mainstream science and STEM to the public, we also launched through the DOST Science Education Institute Indi Ciencia, wherein we open up a competition for, I think, 5-minute films only, one for the open category and one for the youth category. And our team covered science and culture this year. So I think the winners were from Binyang. And it was very interesting to find how people view science and how science relates to the culture. And of course, we have the National Research Council of the Philippines. Unfortunately, we weren't able to formally link together to launch or co-host this event, this Global Women's Breakfast. But if you look at the majority of our governing board, many of which are women. It looks like 50-50 here, but when we are complete, there are more women in our governing board. And even in our membership, we have a good share of women scientists, women researchers, and men researchers or male researchers. And it helps to see that women are sharing leadership positions or are covering leadership positions because some of our members are also looking up to women who are doing science. If they see women scientists taking on leadership positions, they get inspired because they think there is a possibility for them to be able to do this also. But it doesn't happen very fast. You have to work on the science also. There's no shortcuts to this. And even in my field, I have earned a lot of rejection. I have earned a lot of mistakes, but these mistakes I have learned from, and I'm very much thankful for encountering several mistakes early on in my career because I am now more resilient in taking on mistakes because that allows me to learn better. And I think this is my last slide. So we hope that female scientists can find their place under the STEM sun. If you see all of my activities, it is still meant to still find my niche. But I think I found my niche in terms of science communication and delivering a culture-based entomology for most Filipinos. And again, I thank you, PAASE, for the invitation this morning. I hope hindi naman kayo inantok sa mga na-share ko, and maybe later on you can still ask me questions. Salamat po.
Thank you, Dr. Dupo, for sharing your inspiring journey in STEM with us today. Your story of amazing resilience and determination serves as a powerful reminder that with passion and perseverance, anything is possible. Let us give Dr. Dupo a flooding virtual applauses and hearts. Before we continue, just a quick reminder for everyone, for those who have questions for our speakers, you may either type them in the chat box now or save them for the dedicated open forum session later. We will do our best to address all questions during our discussion period. Moving on, I am delighted to introduce our next speaker, who is a proud Filipino that exemplifies excellence in global science. As a senior scientist at Pfizer Groton facility in Connecticut, she brings her expertise to the Analytical Research and Development Department. She completed her academic journey with distinction, earning her PhD in chemistry from the University of Connecticut in 2023, building upon her master's and bachelor's degrees from the University of the Philippines, Diliman in 2011 and 2008, respectively. Beyond her scientific pursuits, she is an avid explorer where she's discovering new places, sampling diverse cuisines, and capturing moments through her camera lens. Her creative spirit extends to music, where she finds joy in playing guitar, and she stays active as well through badminton and table tennis. Above all, she cherishes the moments spent with her husband and their energetic 3-year-old son. Our speaker's journey began with a childhood dream of becoming a pediatrician, but fate had different plans when she discovered her true passion, chemistry. Drawing from her personal experience of pursuing graduate studies abroad and building a career in the pharmaceutical industry, she's here to share valuable insights and resources for hiring scientists. Please join me in welcoming someone an unexpected love for chemistry into a remarkable career, Dr. Arlene Bartolome. Virtual hearts and applauses, please.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, love.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Miss Paklar. Okay, thank you for that wonderful introduction. So, good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure to be one of the speakers for today's event, the Global Women's Breakfast organized by PAASE and other universities. But before I begin my presentation, I want to set the mood of the presentation. So this will be an informal discussion. So if you have any questions, just unmute yourself. You can interrupt me anytime, and then you can ask me questions. I will try to speak in Tagalog because I've been speaking English for the last 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. So yeah, so feel free to interrupt me if you have any questions or if you need clarifications. So the title of my talk is Science and Me, a Love Story. So why did I choose this? Why did I choose this title? So first, because it's the love month, it's February. And then second, because I think my relationship with science is a love story. So it's not the romantic type, which you will see later or hear during this presentation. So before I begin, I want to congratulate PAASE and this group in choosing this theme, accelerating equity in science. So what does it mean? So it means, if you Google it, you will see, you can summarize it in one sentence. It means equal and fair access to opportunity and resources to do science regardless of your background, your race, ethnicity, gender, socioeconomic status, or ability. So I want to congratulate the group because this theme is very relevant many years ago up until now. I am not very sure about the current situation in the Philippines, but I think Dr. Aimee partly discussed that one. So, but in the US, currently in the US, this is very prevalent, the inequity in science, especially for women and underrepresented minority groups. So why do we need equity in science? So you can list several reasons, but the thing that strikes me the most is that equity in science can bring diversity in the workforce, which showcases a wide range of experiences and perspectives, which I believe is very important in research, especially in the healthcare department. So how can we do this? We have to first acknowledge that we have the implicit biases and then develop programs and policies regarding these biases. So based on the presentation that I have seen earlier and the PowerPoints, the introduction, the videos, we have these programs. The second problem is sharing these programs with other groups throughout the country, because I think, especially in the provinces, hindi sila masyadong informed dito. So, I remember when I was graduating high school, I didn't know there's UP, I didn't know there's DOST, SEI scholarship programs. Luckily, during that time, my mom was an admin officer in a private school in Novaliches, so she has access to this information. And then she said, "Oh, you should apply for UP. You should apply for DOST, SEI." So you will hear that later when I share with you my story. So, is this possible? Is equity in science possible? So, yes, I believe yes, because we've seen history has shown us that women, these women, for example, they excel in science. Women actually are the primary inspiration for equity in science. So these people listed here, as you can see, as the video earlier introduced, Mary Curie. So Mary Curie was born, her family was poor. She doesn't have any, resources to pursue science, but she did side jobs, part-time jobs, so that she can do science during that time. Rosalind Franklin, you know her story, the biases between women and men during that time. She earlier discovered the correct structure of DNA, but it was reported that Watson and Crick did that discovery. So you know her story. We have Jennifer Doudna, Frances Arnold. Jennifer Doudna is a professor. So if kung ninyo alam dito sa US, there's a very big difference in number of women as professor versus men as professor. If I remember it correctly, when I took 30 subjects in my graduate studies pursuing PhD in Connecticut. And on those in those 30 subjects, I think tatlo lang doon was taught by a female professor. The rest are male professors. Yeah, so Frances Doudna proved us that although mag-isa lang siya or isa siya sa mga iilang babae sa science, she excelled. She discovered CRISPR, a very important discovery this past few years because it can help it has some very important implications in medicinal field, for example. We have Frances Arnold, we have To Yuyu, I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name correctly. So I'm fangirling right now, but these women are my inspiration, why I keep on pushing, why I wanted to finish my PhD. So I remember attending a webinar like this where Jennifer Doudna is the speaker that time. So yeah, so these people showed us that despite great challenges they faced pursuing science, they succeeded in making a difference and betterment of the society. So now, what's my story? So as you have heard earlier, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a pediatrician. So before that, I just want to share that I came from a very poor family. So I think I can consider my family as one of the poorest of the poor. So na-experience namin yung kumain lang twice a day. And then yung pagkain na yun, inutang lang namin sa kapitbahay namin para makasurvive for the whole year or for the whole day, actually, for the whole day. Because that time, my mom is an admin officer in a private school. And as you know, private school, pagka summer, they don't have work because it's closed. So during summer, walang masyadong kita. So, ayun, walang pera. So, yeah, na-experience ko yung dalawang beses na kumain sa isang araw. So yeah, poorest of the poor. So we don't have any resources. My mom and my dad, or especially my dad, he already he's decided that wag muna kayong mag-aral, hindi naman nyo kailangan mag-aral. Something like that. So that time, I was like, no, I really want to study. And my mom was like, oh, you should be like a flight attendant, because I don't know, during that time, flight attendants, they earn a lot. So, ayun, feeling nila, kung nag-flight attendant ako, yayaman kami. Something like that. Or be a lawyer, be a doctor. But, doctor, kailangan ng pera. So, but, syempre, as a kid, you don't have to stop yourself from dreaming. So, I really wanted to be a pediatrician that time. I want to be a doctor because of watching TV, series. During that time, we have seen escuela, etc. And then I was like, I really want to do science. But what type of science? So that time, I really want to be a doctor, medical doctor. So the thing about doctor, so that time, inisip ko na paano ba ako maging doctor. Kahit na mahirap lang kami. So, my love for science boost. It hits a high, level during high school. So, during high school, low key being pa-humble. um, what do you call this one? Nung high school, top 1 ako lagi, like first year, second year, third year, top 1 sa class. And pag top 1 ka, honorary student ka, lagi nilang pinapadala sa mga inter-school competition, like quiz bee, etc. So that time, I'm doing science competition. So first year, you have your general science, second year, biology, third year, chemistry, fourth year, physics. I didn't graduate from high school, science high school. I am from a national high school in Valenzuela City, so my son national high school. So during that time, among all of those 4 sciences, the only thing that I championed is chemistry. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna do chemistry in college. I want to pursue chemistry because I think I am very good at this subject. Kasi no, biology, third placer lang. Physics, nag-tie pa kami sa third place. And then natalo ako sa fourth placer lang. But don't get me wrong, I love biology and I love physics. But I love chemistry more. Okay, so this is a picture of my chemistry teacher. Nung third year high school ako, 2003. So she really helped me study chemistry. She helped me understand atoms, molecules, chemical reaction, balancing reactions, specifically balancing reactions. So yeah, she's my inspiration. She is the, sabi nga ni Ma'am Aimee, what's the root of your love for science? Sa kanya nagsimula yun. And then, natanggap ako sa UP. So that time, again, I didn't know about UP. I didn't know about the UST scholarship. My mom, with talking to her fellow admin officers in the private school, who's also has a son who's applying for a college, admission test. So she suggested, oh, your daughter is smart, because that time I was graduating as a salutatorian. So let her try UPCAT. Okay, and then my mom was like, it's impossible because we don't have money. Because that time, I think the tuition fee of a full load course, full load semester is like 7,000 pesos, and we couldn't afford that. And then that same admin officer, told her that, oh, you have to apply for DOST scholarship. So that time I only took the the UPCAT. I didn't take any other university entrance exam, and I only took DOST SEI scholarship. I didn't take any other type of scholarships, and luckily, fortunately, I passed both. So I got in UP Diliman. So this picture is a picture of my classmates, my batchmates that time. And then after that, so yeah, that's 2004. And then fast forward 4 years after that, 2008, graduated. Oh, I got my degree in Bachelor's of Chemistry. So that time, I was like, so ano lang gagawin ko after? So the dream of becoming a pediatrician, wala na talaga siya. As in, wala na siya sa equation kasi wala naman kaming pera. Because that time, my sister is pursuing Bachelor's in Nursing, so BS Nursing. So we have the idea of how much a semester will cost, because that time she's paying like 43,000 pesos for one semester because she's a nursing student, and she has this side courses that she has to go to provinces and do, nursing stuff to gain experience, and she has to pay for that. So wala na talaga, walang chance na mag-med that time. So during that time also, my thesis advisor, Dr. Irene Villaseñor, I don't know if you know her, she said, why not pursue a master's degree? I was like, okay, because I need a job immediately. So that time also, I'm thinking, what will my career path be? So will I do industrial job, chemistry industrial job, or academe? So you're just choosing between the two, industry or academe. That time, I have a glimpse of what an industrial job will be, because we have this on-the-job training course on ours. This last summer of our senior, the summer before our senior year, we have this on-the-job training course, and that time I did my OJT at San Miguel Brewery in Valenzuela. So the job is very routinary. Before you even enter the door, you already know what you're gonna do the whole day. So I was like, this is not for me. Um, I don't like routinary things. I want something different every day. So I told myself I don't like to go to industry. So that time I was like, I'm gonna go to the academic track. I want to be a professor, etc. So my advisor, Dr. Irene, knowing this, she said, "Oh, why not try applying for masters?" And I told her, "Mom, I don't have any money for the application fee." And then she said, "Okay, I'm going to give you the application fee." And that time it was just 500 pesos. So she gave me that, and I told her, "I promise, Mom, after my first um, salary, when I get my first salary, I'm going to pay you immediately." And she said, "Okay, no problem." So that's why I started my master's chemistry, journey in UP Diliman in the natural products chemistry research field. So this is me teaching young students. I'm also a teaching assistant that time. They don't call it teaching assistant. I think instructor, yeah, instructor in the UP. So I fell in love with teaching. So I was like, I'm so convinced that I really want to be a professor on this career path. So I was like, yes, I want to be a Dr. Villaseñor in the future. So at that time, so Dr. Villaseñor told me, you cannot be a professor if you only have a master's degree. So why not continue to the PhD degree? So that time I changed to MS to PhD, straight PhD. So yeah, I took all of the subjects needed for that degree. And then 2011, I took I obtained the master's degree non-thesis option, because you can do that while pursuing PhD along the way. Once you complete all your core courses and your comprehensive exam and your candidacy exam, as long as you pass everything, kulang na lang is a dissertation, you can obtain your master's degree non-thesis option. So I did that. And then from 2011 to 2018, before I went here in the US, I'm trying to finish that dissertation. So what are the hindrances? Dito na papasok yung mga opportunities na hinahanap ko that time, because it's so hard to finish that dissertation, because the requirement should be because that time medicinal chemistry or natural products chemistry field, in order for you to graduate or obtain a PhD degree, you should first discover new compound, not just new, novel, like new backbone for if you know organic chemistry. So that time I'm finding it hard to, extract and identify novel compounds and plant sources. I tried to search for scholarships abroad that can, send me there and do part of my research over there, because that time we don't have a lot of resources like NMR. We don't have NMR that time. We don't have LCMS that time, at least in UP Diliman, Institute of Chemistry. So in this picture, yeah, that picture is the Filipino group in Taiwan because I did Mekoteco Science Scholarship Program. I did that because I want to, fast track my dissertation because I've been extracting fractions from plants, and then I was like, so what should I do after? So you can identify the activity, but you have to fully identify, purify, isolate a novel compound. Right? So that is like how many years? 7 years. Walang nangyari. Well, I mean, may nangyari naman, may na-isolate naman ako, pero hindi siya enough for a PhD degree. But fortunately, that research, we published that in a journal, I think Philippine Science Letter, if I remember it correctly. So hindi naman siya nasayang. So we still, published that research. And then that time, so kumakausap na ako ng mga professor sa UP, like, ano nang gagawin ko, what should I do next? Kasi nga, parang wala dead end na yung um, path ko for PhD. So sabi nila, nasa maling resources ka kasi. So if you're like extracting compounds from plants, they're very well studied source of natural products. Why not transfer to a different resource or different source like marine, sponge, or the snails? So I was like, so I'm gonna start from the beginning again. And that time as well, the Institute of Chemistry, they are pursuing this another degree program where you don't have to be an instructor to be in the program. You just have to do research. So it's like PhD chemistry, full research. I don't know, I forgot the correct or the full name for that program, but that's the idea. You will not have to do teaching assistantship. So you will have to focus your doing research. So my advisor again, Dr. Arlene Bartolome that time, is trying to convince me to try and do that path instead. So I was like, Mom, if I'm gonna restart my PhD journey, I want to do it abroad. Kasi, greener pasture, more funding, mataas ang chance na graduate based on my friends, their experiences. So that's why in 2018, I decided to go to Connecticut. Fortunately, I was, accepted at the University of Connecticut in stores. So I started my PhD journey 2018. Actually, tatanungin niyo bakit ang tagal naman nung this timeline between the masters and the PhD. Maraming tatanong sa akin yan. So ano yung mga hindrance and mga doubts na na-experience ko that time? So una, because of my family. So yun ang isa sa mga reason bakit parang may pumipiga sa akin na mag-abroad. A lot of people are telling me you have to go abroad unless you will not get that PhD. But of course, ako lang yun. Because look at Dr. Aimee. So she graduated from UPLB. So in my case, in my experience, I think hindi ko makukuha yung PhD from UP Diliman. So yeah, the hindrances and doubts or challenges that time is my family. So as you can see, both my oh, I want to use laser. Yeah. So my sister and my brother, they already have their own family. Ako na lang yung single. So ginawa ko ng mission in life to take care of my mom and dad. So yun nga, isa yun sa mga hindrance isa yun sa mga pumipigil sa akin bakit ayoko pang mag-abroad that time. Also, I'm already like living a comfortable life in the Philippines. Like I can send my whole family in a vacation, no problem. I can go wherever I want. I can go to the beach, go on mountain hiking every weekend if I want. So I was like, I'm gonna lose that experiences. But yeah, there's also this self-doubt, like, magaling ba ako? Kaya ko ba to? Magagawa ko ba to? Kasi nga, I have faced so much, challenges during that 2011 to 2018 time in the Philippines. And also, mag-isa lang ako abroad. Although may mga kasama akong Pilipino, hindi pa rin sila, hindi mo sila ka-wavelength kasi masyado. So, at the end of the day, mag-isa ka pa rin. if you know what I mean. And of course, pera, kasi nga, aalis ka, so yung source of income sa Pilipinas, mawawala na siya kasi aalis ka na ng Pilipinas, yung job mo as an instructor from sa UP Diliman, wala na siya, kailangan mo na mag-resign. So, saan nakukuha ngayon ng panggastos yung pamilya mo? So, yun yung mga questions ko noon. Bakit ako hindi pa umaalis ng Pilipinas noon? But then, again, kapag habang kinakausap ko si Dr. Villa Senior that time, she said, it's time. Sabi niya na kung gusto mo talagang mag-PhD, maging professor, kailangan mo na siyang gawin ngayon kasi hindi ka na bumabata, alam niyo yun. So yeah, 2018, I decided to pursue PhD abroad, University of Connecticut. So what's my journey here in the US naman? So yeah, I divided my timeline in the Philippines and in the US. So yeah, 2018, I started my PhD journey. So I joined Dr. Yaolin and Dr. Olga's lab. Dr. Yaolin is a polymer chemistry professor, and Dr. Olga is a pharmaceutical sciences professor. So my project is more on biopolymer, biomimetic materials. So it's very exciting because one of my product or synthesis that I was performing that time was hydrogels, and the major application for that one is for medical application, your synthetic skin for wounds, etc. And then my first year in the program, I got the Waring Scholastic Award. This is awarded to students who excel, highest GPA among the whole batch. So I got that one. And again, like I told you, being abroad, you will always feel lonely. At the end of the day, mag-isa ka lang. So fortunately, that year, I met my husband. So yeah, yay, medyo nagka-jowa na ako that time. So yes. So the loneliness, wala na siya. Hindi naman totally nawala kasi namimiss ko pa rin yung buong pamilya ko, especially my mom and my dad. And then 2020, I won the Best EA Award. I got married. 2021, I got the Bobby Chu Award. This is for the early accomplishments or the students who showcase a very early accomplishments in their career. So this is a fellowship award. They give you money to continue with your research. So the money that you obtain for this award, you can make one semester where you are a research assistant instead of a teaching assistant, because being a teaching assistant, it will still use some of your time as an instructor. So if you have this fellowship, focus ka lang talaga sa research. So I'm very thankful that I got that award. And also that year, we got pregnant. So my son was born that year as well, 2021. And then 2022, I'm trying to finish my dissertation because I'm already a fourth year, incoming fifth year in the fall of 2020. So I'm balancing my laboratory work with being a mom. In 2023, I graduated. I got my PhD in chemistry degree. I successfully defended my dissertation. And this is my advisors, Dr. Yaoli and Dr. Olga. So they're very supportive, especially Dr. Olga, because as you know, women in science supports each other. So women in science support each other. So she understands whenever I have to miss lab because my son is sick, the kid cannot go to the daycare because there are rules. Fortunately, Dr. Yarin is also very understanding of my situation. And then after I got my degree, I also became the postdoctoral fellow of the National Cancer Institute under Dr. Kyung Lee. His research is about the 57 proteins, those proteins involved in cell division. So that time we're trying to understand what's the effect of mutations in these proteins that will lead to cancer. So yeah, I really like that lab. But fortunately, I got a job offer from Pfizer 2024. So I joined Pfizer July 2024 as a senior scientist. So yeah, in the analytical research and development division. So my primary job is to make sure that the active pharmaceutical ingredient in your tablet, yung mga gamot nyo, they're very safe to take. So we are determining impurity levels in those APIs, making sure they are below the specifications, like for example, below 500 ppm, for example, because some of those impurities, they're toxic, they're mutagenic. So we're making sure that those toxic compounds will not reach your final API. So, and also we're involved in documentation for new product applications from the FBI. Oh, FDA, not FBI, FDA. So yeah, so at the end, hindi man ako naging medical doctor. Doctor pa rin ako, but this time I'm making sure that the medicine that the medical doctors prescribing are safe. And also I'm also helping these medical doctors, not that, but medical doctors, making sure that their patients are safe, the medicines that they're administering to their patients, young and adult, are safe and effective. So yeah, I think I really will do science, specifically research, for the rest of my life. I cannot see myself doing something else. So yeah, I think that's my story. If you have any questions, and as promised, I have put here some resources. For example, if you want to apply for a graduate degree here abroad, you can try and search this gradmap.com site, because this site it was founded by a Filipino who is also a graduate student, former graduate student, of course. And so they made this this group or organization to help future Filipino who wants to pursue STEM in the US and other universities, hindi lang sa US, to, for example, help to how to write CVs, how to write personal statements, how to look for a lab to join, etc. So if you need help, just check this one. I also very proud to say that one of the current chair of this GradMap group is a former student of mine. So isa siya sa mga una kong naging estudyante sa UP Diliman, si Herdelyn Ardonia. Currently, she is a professor at the University of California, Irvine. So next year, if you're looking for a speaker in these cases or in these programs, I highly recommend DIGS. So yeah. So yeah, that's my presentation. So if you have any questions, feel free to,
Okay, thank you, Dr. Bartolome, for sharing your very eventful life with us that showcases a resilient woman in the field of science that has finally found her success. Virtual hearts and applauses, please, for our dear speaker. Before we continue, just a quick reminder for everyone. For those who have questions for our speakers, you have two options. You may either type them in the chat box now or save them for the dedicated open forum session later. We'll do our best to address all questions during our discussion period. But for now, for our very last speaker, but definitely not the least, her journey from chemist to plant biologist and food scientist began with research on bioactive compounds in brassica vegetables. She earned her masteral in biochemistry studying drought tolerance in rice, followed by a PhD focused on plant cell wall biosynthesis at the University of Melbourne. She later explored the nutritional value of ancient grains at ETH Zurich, integrating chemistry, plant biology, and history. She is now Campus Iberus postdoctoral fellow at the University of Lleida, where she applies Pickering emulsions to food allergy research, emphasizing the integration of multiple scientific disciplines and collaboration. Everybody, please join me in giving a warm welcome to Dr. Joan Narciso as she talks about detours and retours, a chemistry, plant biology, and food science, and final integration of these research fields.
Hi, good morning sa inyong lahat. Thank you very much to PAASE for inviting me for this opportunity to talk with you and present to you my scientific journey and also some of my science. So there will be some parts that are really a little bit technical, but I hope you can learn something from a more scientific perspective. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. Don't hesitate to give a shout out. Do my best to address. It will be in a mixture of Tagalog and English. If it will make my presentation easier to understand. Can you see my presentation now? Hello?
Still loading.
Okay. Yeah. So can you see my presentation now? Yeah. Thank you so much. So what has been mentioned earlier, I did my bachelor's degree in chemistry at the University of the Philippines in Los Baños. My professor was Professor Evelyn B. Rodriguez. And since I work with indole glucosinolates in brassica vegetables, I continued working with plants. And that's when I decided to pursue biochemistry for my master's minor in molecular biology. And for my master's thesis, I work on cellulose synthase gene as a drought tolerance gene in rice at the International Rice Research Institute in Los Baños, and also connected with the University of the Philippines in Los Baños. So here my advisors were Professor Antonio Laurena and Dr. Ajay Colli. And since I work with cellulose synthase, which is connected with plant cell walls, I decided to continue for my PhD in plant cell and molecular biology, and I pursued my PhD at the University of Melbourne in Australia. And this was more enzymatic research because I had to discover and characterize biochemically the enzymes that produce or synthesize the glycans of arbinogalactan proteins. And arbinogalactan proteins are one of the most highly glycosylated proteins in the plant cell wall. And they have a very complex structure. So this was very challenging. This was a very challenging research. Luckily, I survived the PhD. And my advisors at the time were Professor Tony Basic and Monica Doblin and Wei Zhang. And they are experts in the field of plant cell walls. And before I finished my PhD, well, I already finished my experiments, but I had to go back to New Zealand to finish writing my thesis. And while I was writing my thesis, I had a full-time job as a research technician in a food biochemistry lab. And that's how my journey to food science started. But after 1.5 years, almost 1.5 years at Lincoln University in New Zealand, I went back to studying plant biology and did an engineering and postdoctoral stay at INRAE in Versailles, France for almost 2 years. And that was in plant biology as well. After my stay in France, I started looking for jobs, and I found an opportunity to do postdoctoral work at ETH Zurich in Switzerland, and I wrote a proposal to study kabog millet. If anybody of you comes from Cebu or Katmon, Cebu here in the Philippines, you probably would have encountered kabog millet. Otherwise, it's a very endangered crop in the sense that a lot of kabog millet farmers have abandoned growing them in favor of high-yielding rice varieties, because in the Philippines, I think rice production is supported by the Department of Agriculture, but the production or cultivation of indigenous crops are not highly supported. So they're not financially lucrative, so to speak. So a lot of farmers abandoned growing kabag millet. And so it was almost extinct, but it almost disappeared from cultivation, but luckily there were still some farmers who continued growing kabag millet, and that's what I started working on as a future food fellow at ETH Zurich in Switzerland. And after my stay in Switzerland for 3 years, I found an opportunity to work in food science, still in food science, at the University of Lleida as a Marie Curie co-fund Campus Iberos Experience Fellow. And now here at the University of Lleida, I'm working on novel strategies to reduce protein allergen levels in foods. So let me tell you, I will share with you my journey. So at the beginning, I work on indole glucosinolates in locally grown brassica vegetables. And indole glucosinolates are known to have anti-carcinogenic properties. So indole glucosinolates, when they are in the plant, when there is herbivores or when there are wounding in the plant cell, an enzyme called myrosinase degrades the indole glucosinolates, as you can see here, and you produce different degradation products such as isothiocyanates and carbinols. And these degradation products contribute to the anti-carcinogenic properties of indole glucosinolates. That's why usually when they say you should eat your broccolis or cabbages or petchay, it means that the glucosinolates that are present in these plants can have health benefits against the risk of developing cancers. So for my thesis, as part of my thesis, I quantified and characterized the bioactivity of these indole glucosinolates using the PPH antioxidant activity assay. And probably some of you are familiar with this. It's when you have free radical scavenging activity, and then the color of the DPPH free radical changes depending on the amount of free radicals that have been scavenged or that has been removed from the solution. So it's a colorimetric method. We also perform anti-angiogenic activity, which is the ability of the compound to reduce the production of, not really to reduce, but to reduce the formation of blood vessels. This is because usually when there are tumors, blood vessels proliferate to provide nutrients to tumor cells. So if you have an anti-angiogenic compound, this compound will usually try to reduce the proliferation of formation of blood vessels into the tumorigenic cells. So these are two of the bioactivity assays that I performed for my bachelor's degree. And these are some of the reported health effects of glucosinolates. They protect cells from redox imbalance. So if there is an oxidative stress, they usually try to go back to equilibrium. So there's an antioxidant defense. Also, they induce apoptosis, which is the death of cells, and they also slow down the tumor growth or metastasis. So that's why we have to include brassica vegetables into our diet because of their health benefits. So as you can see, I started with natural products chemistry, which is plant foods, and I also measured their bioactivity and their nutrition and health benefits. But I continued within the concept of plant foods, and for my master's, I did plant biology. So there's still some connection between natural products chemistry for my bachelor's thesis and plant biology for my master's thesis. And this is what I call a slight detour. For my master's, I studied the effects of a cellulose synthase gene on the ability of rice to tolerate drought. And cellulose synthesis is caused by this cellulose synthesis. And as you can see here, the reference is from Dublin. And I used her as my reference for my master's thesis, and it ended up that she will be my supervisor for my PhD. The aim of my thesis is to discover genes in this QTL. This QTL 12.1 has been discovered by another PhD student at IRI, International Rice Research Institute, and he found out that this QTL 12.1 contains genes that are potentially involved in drought tolerance. Now, my goal for my master's thesis is to screen these genes and identify which gene is actually contributing to drought tolerance in rice. And we found out that there is this cellulose synthase 10 gene within this QTL 12.1, and it has the ability to it provides or gives, it confers ability for the roots to hold water during drought stress. How? By inducing the formation of root hairs. What is the importance of root hairs? The root hairs actually are the ones, the structure of the root that absorbs the water by osmosis from the soil. So when we saw that the root hairs, there are more root hairs in the rice cultivars that contain the cellulose synthase 10 gene, we hypothesized that maybe this is the mechanism by which this gene confers drought tolerance to this rice cultivar. And so we found out that indeed this cellulose synthase gene within the QTL 12.1 has a role in drought tolerance. And so I thought, since I'm now working in plant cell wall, because cellulose is part of the primary cell wall of plants, I continued working with plant cell wall for my PhD. But instead of working with crops like rice, I work with Arabidopsis thaliana. And that's when I decided to pursue my PhD at the University of Melbourne in Australia under Professor Tony Basic and Monica Dublin and Dr. Wei Zhang. So I mentioned to you before, the reference that I used for my master's was Professor Monica Dublin, and she became actually my supervisor for my PhD. So for my PhD, I tackled this very challenging project, very challenging, which is the biosynthesis of arbenogalactan protein glycans in the plant cell wall. As you can see here, this is the structure of an arbenogalactan protein. An AGP protein, an AGP is 90% glycan and 10% protein. So my goal, my challenge was to determine which enzymes actually synthesize the glycans of this plant cell wall protein. And as you can see here in the bottom, you will notice that this is the structure of the glycans. And it's very varied. You have the galactose, you can also have rhamnose, you can also have arabinose. So it's a very complex structure. And discovering the genes or enzymes that synthesize these glycans is not an easy feat. It's not. First of all, you have to develop the enzyme assay to even test the biochemical activity of these enzymes. And this was part of my PhD project. So the aim of my PhD was to discover glycosyl transferases that synthesize the AGP galactan backbone. And I discovered two enzymes, GALT14 or KNS4 and GALT8. So here you will see some of the phenotypes of the KNS4 or GALT14 mutant. The pollen was really deformed, and we have to test the activity of this enzyme in terms of whether this enzyme really elongates the galactan backbone. And we use mass spectrometry to determine how much is the degree of polymerization, how many galactan moieties were connected by this enzyme. And so we also perform site-directed mutagenesis. So we remove the catalytic site or mutated the catalytic site of these enzymes and see whether there is activity of these enzymes. As you can see here, these ones are the C, D, and E in these figures are the ones that are mutated, the enzymes that are mutated. And the native enzyme is D. And as you can see here, the production of the galactan backbone was completely suppressed when you mutate the enzyme, especially the catalytic site of the enzyme. So you know that this native enzyme in this figure B really produces the galactan backbone. And we also perform Western blotting to detect whether these enzymes are present in the enzymatic assay that we develop. So actually, as a contribution to the field, this was the first phenotypic and morphological evidence. This was the first study that provides phenotypic and morphological evidence that KNS4, which is the enzyme and the gene, is important in the pollen development. And we also provided the first biochemical evidence that these two enzymes, KNS4 UPEX1, GALT14, and GALT8, are really beta-1,3 galactosyl transferases that synthesize the beta-1,3 galactan backbone of type 2 arabinogalactans. How important was this contribution? If you are working with Arabidopsis thaliana, there is a website called the Arabidopsis thaliana resource, TARE, and you will see there are names that we contributed to the biochemical activity of the genes KNS4 or GALT14 and GALT8. So in there, if you go to that website, tare.org, and you click KNS4 GALT8 enzymes, you will see our names there, that we were the ones who discovered the activity of these two enzymes. So from plant biology, I moved to food science partly because of my work as a research technician at Lincoln University, New Zealand. So while I was writing my PhD thesis, which took like almost 2 years, I was also working full-time as a research technician in a food biochemistry lab at Lincoln University. So if you know how difficult it is to balance a full-time job with thesis writing, it was really very difficult. So luckily I survived both endeavors. And so I decided to continue in food science. Well, actually, after my stay in New Zealand, I did like roughly almost 2 years of food plant biology work in France. But I found an opportunity to continue in food science after my stay in France. So that's when I decided to contribute to Philippine agriculture, because that was my main goal, why I decided to do a PhD in plant biology in the first place, is to contribute to agriculture in developing countries, especially in the Philippines. So I decided to write a proposal for the Future Food Fellowship at ETH Zurich in Switzerland. And I decided to focus on kabog millet as an alternative to rice. So kabog millet is an ancient grain, and it's also underutilized. And it's important to consume these ancient grains and underutilized crops because they have benefits to society. Now we have to improve food security, and in the face of climate change, such as now we're experiencing drought in some areas, it's important we have to diversify the crops that we cultivate. In addition, consumption of ancient grains and underutilized crops, they promote access to better nutrition. And they provide potential income opportunities for many farmers, especially indigenous farmers. And the one reason that is close to my heart is that we help conserve plant genetic resources and endangered foods. Because what we do not eat vanishes forever. So we have to eat these foods in order to save them. Especially now that indigenous foods are becoming extinct, and also indigenous languages are becoming extinct. So with the extinction of this culture, we also lose a lot of knowledge that come with them. So it's very important to preserve culture and languages, especially the culture related to food, because it's very important. Food is central to our survival, and it's also central to our culture, because a lot of our cultural traditions are related to food, sharing food with the community, cooking, the ingredients. So these are very important in terms of preserving our cultural identity. Food is very important. So what is kabog millet? It's an ancient grain from Visayan folklore. Actually, it's found on the island of Cebu, particularly in Catmon. So according to Visayan folklore, there was a farmer who entered a cave, and he saw in the cave some plants. And then these plants actually were producing grains. And he noticed that the bats, panike, were eating the grains of these plants. And these bats in the local language is called kabog. And so when he saw that the bats were eating the grains of these plants, he said, these grains are not poisonous. They are edible because the bats can eat them. So he gathered the grains, and then he started making recipes from the grains. And that's how the budbud kabog came about or started. So budbud kabog is like suman in the Tagalog region, but it's made of kabog millet. And it's made with coconut milk and sugar, and then you wrap it in banana leaves and then you steam it. So it's like how you make suman, but made of kabog millet. So what is kabog millet? Kabog millet, in the Philippines, actually, there are 3 types of millet. You probably have heard of dawa. Dawa is actually foxtail millet. And usually they are grown as bird feed. But they can be consumed by humans. So we are actually throwing away a lot of grains that we can consume. And there are also 2 types of kabog millet. It's called kabog pakdas and kabog pilit. Kabog pakdas is the one that is used mainly as bird feed, while kabog pilit is the real kabog millet, because they are the ones, this is the one that is consumed by humans, and that is the one that is used in making budbud kabog. So kabog pilit is a cultivar of proso millet. So proso millet, Panicum miliaceum. So kabog pilit is a proso millet. So we analyzed the nutritional profiles of kabog millet in comparison with black rice. As you can see here, in terms of dietary fiber, protein, carotenoids, and phenolic acids, kabog millet is superior to black rice. So if you have an opportunity to consume kabog millet as part of your diet, please do so because it has a lot of nutritional benefits. So we decided to genotype kabog millet. What is it really? Because it's the only proso millet that is found in the Philippines. But the Philippines is geographically isolated from the rest of mainland Asia. So how did it even reach the Philippines? So we perform what we call molecular clock. So with molecular clock dating, you quantify the number of mutations in the genome of the plant to determine how far ago it deviated or it separated from the main ancestor. And as you can see here, the age of the kabog millet clade goes back 500 to 800 years ago. So that means that the kabog millet actually has been cultivated in Katmon, Cebu, even before the Spaniards came to the Philippines, because the Spaniards arrived in 1521. So since the kabog millet clade has been going back since 500 to 800 years ago, that means the cultivation of kabog millet in Katmon or in Cebu predated the arrival of the Spaniards in the Philippines. But how long ago did the kabog millet separated from its ancestor? Well, based on the molecular dating that we perform with Professor Simon Ho, a collaboration with Professor Simon Ho at the University of Sydney, we calculated that it is 25,000 years ago that it separated from its ancestor. And what is the importance of this 25,000 years ago? If you will recall the prehistory of the Philippines, there was a hypothesis that there were land bridges that connected the Philippines to mainland Asia during the last ice age. And according to the timing of these land bridges, it occurred roughly around 25,000 years ago as well. But we are not sure. We are not sure whether this hypothesis of land bridges is actually, this theory of land bridges actually occurred or is true. But what we can say is that these land bridges, based on anthropologists or historians, that they occurred 25,000 years ago. And when we calculated the time of divergence of kabog millet, we also calculated it was 25,000 years ago. So there is a possibility that during the last ice age, when the land bridges were existing, people who migrated from mainland Asia to the Philippines, to the islands of to some of the islands in the Philippines, they carried already these grains with them, and then it settled in some of the islands in the Philippines, particularly in Cebu. And since because of its geographical isolation, it sort of continuously evolving by itself. This is just a hypothesis, so please don't take it as true at the moment, because we're still trying to analyze whether the timeline of the cultivation of kabog millet and its separation from the ancestor in China, because the origin of domestication of proso millet is China, whether the theory of land bridges really happened, and whether the arrival of humans through these land bridges really occurred, and the arrival of kabog millet with these humans really occurred. We're still not sure, but this is just a hypothesis. So this is combining food science with plant science and history. And now, as part of my project at ETH Zurich, we also try to develop edible packaging material that has incorporated kabog millet flour. And this is what we did. So we have an edible plastic film. I did it with my bachelor student called, his name is Niels Wrench. And he extracted pectin from orange peel waste from restaurants that are from supermarkets in Zurich. He extracted pectin. He used enzymatic treatment and microwave treatment. And he managed to develop these edible plastic films from pectin. And he also incorporated kabog millet flour, whole grain kabog millet flour. So why did we incorporate whole grain kabog millet flour? Because our main goal at the time was to develop packaging, edible packaging for noodles. You know, when you buy noodles, you have the dried vegetables and the sauce. So we wanted to use this edible packaging to contain the dried vegetables. So when you add hot water, the edible packaging dissolves, including the kabog millet flour, which contains the nutrients that are found in the kabog millet. So you have added nutrients, you have added dietary fiber. So this was our goal, to add or to fortify nutrients into the noodles by mixing whole grain kabog millet flour with the edible packaging material. And he was successful in making prototypes. Actually, he won the 2023 Swiss Young Food Chemist Award because of his bachelor thesis. And so this is what we envision to be the production system for this circular economy, wherein you have the fruits from the local farmers that will go to the local supermarkets, and these supermarkets, they produce this fruit waste. And from this fruit waste, you extract the material, usually pectin or cellulose to or other hemicelluloses. Also, you can use hemicelluloses to produce materials, especially pectin and hemicelluloses. You can make edible plastics from them. And then these edible plastics, you can make into plastic films. And you can use this for as application. It has applications in food production companies and also healthcare and cosmetic companies. And so this is how my project supported the kabog millet community. So they have now one farmer. Her name is Rosa Flor Estenso. She managed to organize and develop a community garden and a community kitchen, where you can actually visit her garden and kitchen, where she grows the fruits and vegetables herself, and it's organic. And then she would cook it in her own kitchen, and then she will give you the food. So it's really straight from the soil to the plate. So she grows everything. She grows the vegetables. She cooks everything, and then you eat the food that she provides. So this is very organic. This is the closest to nature that you can get in getting your food. So finally, I moved from my work at ETH Zurich. I continued in food science, but then my interest has shifted a bit into food allergens or food allergy. And now I'm trying to develop Pickering emulsions to reduce food allergenicity. So what is food allergy? Food allergy affects millions of people around the world, and some allergic reactions are fatal. Now you will be more familiar with plant-based ingredients such as soy, peanut, pea, and there are also meat alternatives made of these ingredients. And these ingredients may contain allergens. And often, thermal treatment is not sufficient to reduce the food allergenicity because the protein allergens cannot be degraded by thermal. Some of the protein allergens cannot be degraded by thermal treatment. So it's necessary to find novel and safe strategies to address food allergenicity. And for my project, I hypothesized that if I mix a polysaccharide, a food grade polysaccharide with these soy protein allergens, for example, from soy milk, they will form a complex. And this complex, within certain conditions, they are stable. And then you can separate them from the soy milk. By this process, you can reduce the amount of soy protein allergens in the soy milk. And then these complexes between the soy protein allergens and the polysaccharides, you can prepare Pickering emulsions. So what are Pickering emulsions? Pickering emulsions are basically emulsions. It's either water in oil emulsion or oil in water emulsion that are stabilized by solid particles. And in this case, the solid particles are the complexes that were formed between the soy protein allergens and the polysaccharides. Once you have made the Pickering emulsions, you can use these Pickering emulsions for many different applications. For example, in encapsulating enzymes or in encapsulating other biological molecules such as carotenoids or other compounds that have health benefits. So now, what I'm testing at the moment is I'm testing Pickering emulsions wherein I encapsulated pectinase as the enzyme. And I'm trying to determine the enzymatic activity of the encapsulated pectinase and whether these Pickering emulsions are stable for a longer time. And these might have an application, for example, in digesting pectin from fruit and vegetable waste. So at the moment, my project is about how to reduce the quantity of protein allergens in soy milk by complexation with polysaccharides such as gum arabic and pectin. And then you can separate them by forming Pickering emulsions from these complexes. I think that's it from my part, and I would like to thank the people who contributed to my journey, and these are everyone that has been part of my life, my scientific life. And also, I would like to thank my current supervisors here at the University of Lleida, Professor Olga Martin, Professor Laura Salvia, and Professor Robert Soliva, for supporting me with my project here currently at the University of Lleida. So thank you very much. And if you have any questions, please feel free to send them to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Narciso, for sharing your valuable insights and expertise with us today. I invite everyone to express their appreciation for Dr. Narciso through virtual reactions. And we will now welcome questions from our audience. We have noted some excellent questions here sent to us, and we will begin by addressing those before taking live questions. Dr. Bartolome had to leave due to an urgent matter, so any questions for her will be collected and forwarded to her via email, and her responses will be sent to you once received. Our first question here is for both of our speakers, and it goes, the theme of today's events is accelerating equity in science. What do you believe is the single most urgent change needed to achieve this goal? Let's start with Dr. Dupo.
It's hard to identify one thing to accelerate equity in science, but I guess the most important thing that we should accomplish is presence. If we see a lot of women participating in science activities and even in scientific discussions and taking on leadership positions in science, then we can participate in accelerating equity in science.
Thank you, ma'am. How about Dr. Narciso?
I I think I agree with Professor Dupo, especially in my case. I got into science because my mother is a scientist. So when you see role models, women role models in science, you will be encouraged and motivated to pursue science as well. Yes, because if you don't have role models, women role models, it will be difficult for you to even think that science can be a career path. So my thesis advisor for my bachelor's, they were both women professors. So because of this, when you see that there are a lot of women professors that are thriving in science, you will be, as a woman, you will be more motivated, or you will see science not only as a way to survive, but it's a way of life, you know. Once you are hooked with science, you I don't know. And once you know the feeling of doing research, it's difficult to separate research from your life. I think you will always it's a way of thinking. It's a way of thinking. Being a scientist is a way of thinking. Yes. I think having having role models, women role models, the more you see women in science, the more you are motivated to, as a woman, to pursue science.
Thank you, Dr. Narciso. I think both of your questions, both of your answers agree with each other that in order for us to influence more women in the field of science, our presence has to be felt by those younger generation that are looking up to us. Thank you. Another question here for Dr. Dupo from Ify Joy Dua. What are the benefits of having more women in leadership roles within the STEM industry, and how can this be achieved?
I guess as mentioned earlier, the benefits would be it encourages the concept of possibility. You visualize women role models in science as a possibility that you can also pursue that track or that kind of career. But more importantly, when you see women leaders also in the sciences, um, sa akin in my case, it created a safe space for me. Kasi noon, I'm a young mother. I am starting out my family. And if I have women mentors in my laboratory, kasama ko silang naiintindihan yung manner by which I do my science. That they allow me to be a mother, but also be a scientist, but also be a faculty at the same time. Kasi nagkakaintindihan kami. Sinabi din yun ni Dr. Bartolome na mahalaga na merong mentors ka na babae na nakakaintindi kung ano yung pinagdadaanan ng babae. They know the importance of being a mother, should not be, kumbaga, should not take as a second fiddle pagdating sa ating mga ginagawa. Yung bagay na yon has really helped me a lot grow as a scientist and also as a leader kasi kailangan may pulse ka din dun sa bagay na yon. At magandang may kasama kang mga babae kasi yun nga para bang hindi naman sa ine-echopera natin ang kalalakihan, pero iba yung relationship natin with other women, how we network together, how we communicate with one another. And when there are women leaders, you feel a sense of belonging to that particular part of society.
Thank you, Dr. Dupo. As they say, nobody understands a woman than another woman. Another question here for Dr. Narciso. What can you say about agricultural innovation on food security?
Okay. In terms of agricultural innovation, what we notice is that in the Philippines, we have a lot of indigenous knowledge. So these indigenous knowledge are the ones that have been applied by farmers for centuries, for many generations. And these indigenous farming practices, they were created by farmers based on observation. So they observe a phenomenon and then they try to rationalize it. And so they did some methodologies in how they practice farming based on these observations. But the problem is we didn't confirm with scientific tools, proper scientific tools, whether these indigenous farming practices are really valid or they have valid scientific they are valid scientifically. So when it comes to agricultural innovation, we can actually adopt these indigenous farming practices that the farmers have already been using for centuries, but we need to provide we need to collaborate with universities, with researchers to provide scientific reasoning behind these practices. So these are what I think some of the ways that agricultural innovation can occur in the Philippines by integrating the indigenous farming practices with the scientific method. And maybe this will also help farmers improve their yields and also provide higher income for them. So this is how I see the the future of agricultural innovation in the Philippines. I hope I answered the question.
Thank you, ma'am. We have a question here from Professor Eileen May Ang. And Ma'am Ai, you're recognized. Please give your question. Ma'am Ai, you're unmuted.
Hello, good morning, everyone.
Good
My
morning.
question, yes, my question is, either of the speakers can answer. Okay, how can the scientific community better engage with marginalized communities to ensure that research is both relevant and accessible to everyone?
Maybe both of our speakers can give their answers. Let's start with Dr. Dupo.
Okay, so we are targeting addressing marginalized communities. Ano po, ma'am? One of the challenges would be because the Philippines is an island country, ang hirap maabot ng ating mga marginalized community. But at the point of view of the National Research Council of the Philippines, which I am currently affiliated in, what we try to practice, but perhaps the outputs may be several years from now, is to increase our membership, because we would like a researcher, at least one researcher for every island in the country. For us to be able to do that, we are actively aggressively getting membership from all over the Philippines, because we would like our researchers to be able to reach as many marginalized islands in our country. But again, this takes a lot of time. And even avenues like this, itong Global Women's Breakfast discussion din natin, is also an attempt to reach as far as more than the Philippines pa nga po. So it's the smallest of attempts. Hopefully, if we get this in a regular basis, on a regular basis, and we do this a lot, perhaps we could reach even more. Although ang limitations lang po natin is paano i-increase yung internet access to the marginalized communities. But even Ateneo de Davao, we have researchers in Ateneo de Davao who have research bringing together satellite technology to our marginalized communities. So they have internet access now, even better than we have in Luzon. So hopefully, in a few years' time, we could reach more po. But again, it's still one day at a time, one step at a time.
Thank you, ma'am. How about Dr. Narciso?
I don't have much experience as Dr. Professor Dupo with working with marginalized communities in the Philippines. But what my experience was, I chose one particular sector of the society that I want to help. And this would be the farmers in Katmon, in the kabog millet farmers in Katmon, Cebu. And so I think this is just like my little my little contribution to help the one marginalized sector in the Philippines. And I think if all of the scientists from the Philippines will help little bits, I think the the revolution can occur. For example, until now, even though my project with the kabog millet farmers is officially ended since 2022, I still have constant communication with them, and I still try to contribute to their projects in Katmon, Cebu. So I think with scientists from the Philippines, I mean, I contribute in a little way by just trying to help one marginalized sector and then pursuing it until we see changes in their we see changes in their community, so to speak. So little changes make a big change later on, but it takes a long time. Just what Professor Dupo said, it takes a long time. We don't see the effects straight away, but if we continue supporting one sector of the society persistently, I think we can make quite a revolution in improving the lives of people in the Philippines.
Thank you, speakers. I think the key there of both your answers is just persistence and perseverance in making little impact to society that we can reach. I hope this answers the question of Miss Ang. Moving on, I would like to recognize Sir Serafika for his question.
Thank you, Charlene, for following up. Yeah, I'm Dr. Al Serafika. I'm a board member of PAASE and past chairman of the board and past president as well. I'm a member of the National Academy of Science in the Philippines. And we've been trying to form transdisciplinary teams to address particular problems in the country that can be assisted or enabled by science. And part of that is also I'm a Balik scientist, and we just formed the Balik Scientist Society of the Philippines. And part of my interest today is, of course, to listen to our new young scientists abroad, that how they can be part of the ecosystem of science that Filipinos should have a very active role in the Philippines, not only for Filipinos in the country, but also for Filipinos who are based abroad. So I was happy to learn about your experience, Dr. Arlene Bartolome and Joan. But my challenge to you is, how can we engage you besides the Balik Scientist program of the UST, where it's been developed for you to tap in on short-term basis and by remote? How can you be more active, like in your advocacy, Joan, on your kabog? How can we complete? Kasi part of the way we address problems now in the Philippines that involve science and technology supported enterprises is to assemble the stakeholders, not only your academia, not only your government, DOST, including DTI also for the trade, but also our entrepreneurs and our risk capital to be able to fund and test feasibility of your interventions, if ever, that will lead to actual impact, especially for the marginalized side of society. Take a case of feeding programs. We wanted to address growth stunting for undernourished kids in the provinces, which is about 25%, about 4 million kids that are undernourished. How can your technology or your science impact that particular sector? You cannot solve that problem alone, so you have to be a part of a bigger organization. PAASE, which is a very active scientific community worldwide, have a research expertise clusters, which you can bolt in if you're not yet a member of the PAASE. That's a good way to be involved in. Of course, President Gladys can tell you all about that. But I'm wanting to ask you directly, you are abroad. How do you want to be tapped and engaged in? And what would be ideal would be to be part of organizations like PAASE, as well as the NRCP. I'm glad actually Aimee here is the president of NRCP, which is a very strong presence in the Philippines. But again, Aimee, that's another question for you also. How can we interact as a whole society of scientists? Because you have NRCP, we at NAST have a separate group. And unfortunately, when I was looking at the statistics of women, my division, which is the Engineering Sciences Division, is the least women populated. I only have 2 member women. I think Ao Matias of Dean of UP and Celia Alabastros, former DOST Secretary. But very, very few engineers. So I also have a request that maybe the next time we have this breakfast, let's involve women engineers also. But really, it's more of the ecosystem build. How do you want to interact with it, or how can we bring you in? Maybe a Balik scientist, maybe NRCP membership or NAST. We have corresponding membership. I'm a corresponding member, having been based in the US for 25 years. What is the best setup in your own experience? How do we involve Filipinos abroad? Like me, before I came back here with the prodding of one of your board of governors, which is Giselle Concepcion, who was presenting PAASE, is now with you in the RCP. But this kind of discussions kasi is per identification. You go to the interface, and now you're acknowledged. What's the next step for you to materialize your dreams? The same way you have been doing it on a personal level. But we all wanted the Philippines to benefit from science. How do you envision that from happening, given the situation that I just described to you? I know it's a complex question, but good luck. Thank you.
Thank you po. Thank you very much po, Sir Al, for the question. Actually, pinag-iisipan ko rin po yan. Kasi po, ang nangyari dun sa Kabog Millet advocacy namin, habang nasa Switzerland ako, I was able to apply for funding, for fellowships, for funding, for money from an organization in Switzerland to fund our projects in the Philippines. And so what happened was, especially during the COVID times, I cannot go back to the Philippines when I was supposed to go back to the Philippines to be personally, physically, to be with the farmers. But COVID happened. So what we did was we collaborated with a non-government organization in Katmon, Cebu to administer these projects while the funding comes from Switzerland, or was coming from Switzerland. And so actually, what I saw, the reality that I saw was, I was the one who is based in a country where I can get funding and apply for funding because I can write the project proposals and then channel the money to a non-government organization in the Philippines. But unfortunately, I cannot be physically in the Philippines wholly completely in the Philippines because the money is coming from here. And so what is happening is that now the collaboration with a non-government organization, it's called Cafe I, they are the ones that are physically working with the farmers, but the financial the funding is coming from here. So you see, my I cannot be 100% in the Philippines because I will risk like the opportunity to apply for funding here in Europe when they have money.
Okay,
And
I think that's a good model, Joanne.
yes, exactly. This is what I'm doing at the moment. Like while I am here, I can at least channel um financial help to the non-government organization that I work with in the
Yeah,
Philippines.
identify funding sources. Definitely, the exchange for requests for proposals for international funding agencies is one avenue. We did that very well with USAID until now, of course. Well, that's a separate discussion altogether. But yes, thank you for that description of your model. Aimee?
Okay po, kasi hindi naman po ako balik scientist, ang tawag ko sa sarili ko ay bahay scientist kasi I never left. But with regards to the networking of NRCP, kami po ay very much inclined to have active participation within the DOST network. For instance, ang aming Research Information Division din po is tied with the STII, with the Science Technology Information Institute, wherein we communicate the results of our research to our stakeholders, kahit sa mga marginalized communities. Every Thursday, kasama ko din po si Doc Greg, although most of the time absent din po ako sa ating mga meeting ng Future Earth Philippines. This is also part of the NAS activities din po natin. Ang NRCP po is also trying to be active in that po. We also nominate members of the NRCP pagdating sa participation in the Future Science Leaders Forum. And I'm also OIS din po, kaya kasama din po ko parati sa mga activities natin sa NAS. And of course, yung activities din po natin with the DOST Science Education Institute, it's not just me, but we also bring in our NRCP experts to become judges for the Indiciencia Science Filmmaking Competition, our DOST experts pagdating sa Radio Eskwela, as well as the NULAP PAASE. So baka po the other way around, paano po natin nasasama ang NAST with the NRCP activities pa po?
Okay yan, dinaligtad mo para sa akin. Tatanungin ko yung mga bossing natin. But of course, a part of our broadcast right now, we're just starting it at Aimee, is that the NAST, kasi nga, I'm in business and trade for NAST. I'm really looking at the science-based and technology-supported businesses and enterprises. Kasi that's the part of our ecosystem that's not being broadcasted to the rest of the scientific group. Kasi sila yung kailangan natin tulungan para kumita at gumanda ang ekonomiya. Kaya yun ang challenge sa akin ngayon. Al, paano mo hihikayatin yung mga businesses na magpakita at makipag-usap sa ating mga scientists at engineers. So again, that's another focus, but definitely we need to interact fully. I did interact with Greg when he was president, but naputol nga rin. Ayan, siya na mauna. Titigil na ako. Salamat.
Sige pa.
Thank you, speakers, and thank you, sir, for your very engaging question and discussion. At this point, I would like to recognize Sir Del Pilar from NRCP.
Magandang umaga po sa lahat. Ba't hindi ko nakikita ang sarili ko?
Hindi po kayo naka-spotlight, sir.
Kita.
Hi, Al, Aimee at mga kaibigan ko. Maganda yung, ang entrada ko po ay yung pagbanggit dun sa slide ni Dr. Narciso na suman, yung kabog millet suman, kinakain natin kapag piyesta. At para po sa akin, ito pong ating pagtitipon ngayong umaga ay parang piyesta sa dami ng aking mga nakuhang nakatutuwang mga balita at mga kuro-kuro. Sisimulan ko po dun sa sinabi ni, ako po ay isang advocate ng gamit ng mother tongue sa elementarya. Sa katunayan, ako ay nagsalita dito sa PAASE tungkol dito. At nagustuhan ko po yung sinabi ni Dr. Narciso tungkol dun sa pangangailangan pangalagaan yung ating mga wika. Yung magandang naging hakbang noong 2013 na ginawang mother tongue ang medium of instruction mula kindergarten hanggang grade 3 dahil, well, alam natin ang mga bata talagang matututo ng kaagad-agad, no? At mas marami silang matututunan, magiging madaldal sila, kanilang mga natural na sarili, kung ang gagamiting wika ay yung naiintindihan na nila, no? Pero maliban doon, yun ang sinabi kanina ni Dr. Narciso, kailangang makuha natin yung mga nilalaman nitong mga wika na ito ay kayamanan, no? Kamukha nga nung tungkol dun sa kabog millet, no? Yung kung paano pinoproseso lahat, nasa yun, nasa salita, ano ba yun, Cebuano ba yun, o isang dialekto siguro sa Cebu. So, ito ang nakikita kasi namin, pag mother tongue ang ginagamit, na-stimulate din ito, no, yung paggawa ng mga libro, no, para ang mga bata natin mayroong mga mababasa. So yung ating mga nasa humanities naman, sila ay mabibigyan mula sa iba't ibang rehiyon, ano, yung lahat ng mga nagtatrabaho sa larangan ng humanities sa mahigit 100 wika natin, ma-stimulate din 'yon, ano, kaya napaka gandang gawain na makapagbibigay sa atin ng napakaraming biyaya, no? Itong pangangalaga sa ating mga inang wika at sa pagtuturo dito, no? Gusto ko ring banggitin yung nabanggit ni Dr. Dupo kanina, no, yung sa kanyang huling bahagi ng kanyang pananalita, ang sinabi niya ay napili daw niya o inaayos niya sa ngayon yung kanyang niche na nakita ng communication, no? Si Dr. Dupo po, kilala po natin yan, scientist 3 po yan sa UP Los Baños at pangulo ng NRCP. Pero ito pong napakaganda pong balita na ngayon ay tinitingnan niya yung science communication. Isang top scientist natin na sasabak dito, no, sa napakahalagang gawain ito. At siyempre binabanggit ko to dahil sa gusto kong diinan siguro, ipaalala sa atin na ang communication ng science, magiging pinaka-epektibo yan dun sa local languages natin, di ba? Kung gusto natin harapin yung mga mabibigat na problema tulad ng climate change, no? O kaya yung paghahalal ng ating mga pinuno sa ating bansa, sa ating mga komunidad, kailangan ng ating mga hindi lamang po yung mga scientists at mga nakapagtapos ng kolehiyo ang magdidiskusyon o uunawain ito. Kailangan po buong bansa. Pinakamaraming taong may engage natin sa ganitong mga malalaki, malawakan at mahalagang diskusyon, mas mabuti. Hindi tayo siguro magsusurvive kung tayo-tayo lang ang nag-uusap, no? Kailangan pinakamarami, hindi yung academically gifted na 20% lamang, kundi yung 80% na nandun pa rin, no? Whole of nation approach ang kailangan. At para rito, maliwanag naman siguro na dapat hindi siguro sa English natin pwedeng gawin yon, ano? Hindi ko sinasabing hindi mahalaga ang English, mahalaga yon, ano? Pero kailangan idagdag natin doon yung ating advokasya para sa ating mga inang wika. And then finally, of course, si Dr. Bartolome, wala na rito ngayon. Gusto ko makuha ang kanyang email kasi nga gusto ko rin siyang tanungin. Si Dr. Bartolome, tulad ng sinabi niya, nanggaling sa isang pamilya na hindi gaanong hindi maganda ang standing sa buhay, pero ano ba, si Kwanza, no? 0.001% sa kanyang mga achievement na narating. So, parang siya yung exception, definitely, no? Hindi natin pwedeng sabihin, hindi natin siya pwedeng ituro at sabihin, o tingnan mo yan, ano? English ang ginamit na medium of instruction niyan sa science and math, and yet tingnan mo ang narating. So parang kontra dun sa sinasabi ng naming mga advocates ng mother tongue. Pero si Dr. Bartolome ay napaka-rare, no? Kung titingnan natin statistically, no? Marami tayong pwedeng maituro ng mga ganyan, magagaling na hindi naman nanggaling sa mga eskwelahan kung saan itinuturo ang English ng maagang maaga. So dito po ako magtatapos sa aking mahabang remarks, no? Napakayaman po ng aking mga kaalaman na aking nakuha sa ating pagtitipon ngayong umaga.
Salamat, Doc Craig. So, dagdagan ko lang po yung sinabi ninyo. Sa ngayon po, kamakailan po, meron po akong naging pananalita or lecture po sa ating mga teachers kasi isa po talaga sa advocacy natin sa science communication ay gamitin yung lokal na material natin sa pagtuturo kasi hindi naman po science ang tinuturo natin, whether it's English or in Filipino, hindi tayo pwedeng gumamit ng local context, lalo na when we are studying biodiversity. So pinakita ko dun sa ating lecture na ang biodiversity natin ay hindi lang sa mga organismong nakikita natin sa ating bansa, kundi na sa mga lengguwahe na sinasabi natin. Ang ginagamit ko pong ehemplo dito ay kunyari ang tawag natin sa Tagalog para sa mga sikada, tawag natin dito sa Tagalog kuliglig. Pero makikita natin sa Cebuano, ang tawag natin dito gangis, sa Bantuanon agagangis. So itinuturo natin sa mga teachers natin na nagtuturo ng agham na pwede din gamitin ang lengguwahe sa pagtuturo ng biodiversity. Binibigyan natin sila ng actual examples like yung alitaptap, yung ating mga fireflies, aninipot to sa Cebuano, sa Bantuanon din, aninipot din. So makikita natin may mga similarities. Or kahit sa Tagalog, katulad ng yung weaver ants natin dito sa Los Baños, ang tawag sa kanya ay hante. Pero tumawid ka lang ng bundok, guyam na siya sa Batangas, Tagalog din po yun. So ipinapakita natin kung gaano kalawak ang ating lengguwahe bilang mga Pilipino. At nagkakaroon din tayo ng ownership ng ating kultura pag ganito ang pagtuturo natin ng agham. So yun po yung binabanggit ko kayo na unti-unti po nating binabago kasi kasama po sa pagpapaunlad ng ating science communication, yung tinatawag nating science diplomacy. Although hindi pa po marami ang buy-in dito, pero hopefully ma-enrich po natin ito pagdating sa agham.
Baka maaari din po ako makakapagdagdag. Yung may isa pong kabog millet farmer, may magsasaka po ng kabog millet sa Katmon, Cebu, si Ma'am Rosa Flor Estenso. Gumagawa din po siya ng mga tula at mga awit na gamit yung tungkol sa kabog millet na gamit yung Cebuano o Bisaya. Kaya nabigyan niyo nga po ako ng ideya na baka maaari akong magsulat ng isang kwento na pambata na may kabog millet dun sa kwento. Tapos may papakita mo yung yung pinagmulan ng kabog millet, tapos mahahaluan mo ng agham, mga konsepto ng agham. Pero nakasulat siya sa Bisaya. Kaya lalo na kapag po nakikipag-usap kayo sa mga magsasaka sa Cebu, maisip niyo po na kailangan hindi lang Tagalog ang alam niyo, kailangan mag-aral ka rin ng Bisaya kasi mas makukuha niyo yung kanilang simpatiya, hindi simpatiya, yung kanilang iniisip talaga yun, sinasa puso nila, talagang maipapahayag nila sa inyo kapag alam niyo yung wika na gamit nila. Kaya
Oo, yung engagement, 'di ba? Talagang magi-engage sila sa iyo kung no?
Opo. Makukuha niyo malalaman niyo talaga yung tunay nilang damdamin kapag nakikipag-usap sila sa inyo sa sarili nilang wika. Kaya ngayon, kailangan ko po talagang ayusin din yung Bisaya, pero nagsimula na po ako.
Salamat, Doc Joan at Doc Aimee.
Maraming salamat po, Dr. Del Pilar and our speakers. Medyo hirap ako mag-Tagalog. Siyempre, hindi ako naturally speaking Tagalog. Lisod kayo, sir, sa Bisaya na mag-Tagalog, but it is such an engaging exchange of ideas. Maraming salamat. At this point, I would like to recognize Dr. Gladys for her question.
Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Maraming salamat sa initiative ni Joanne. You're really very inspiring. Ang dami mong gustong, kahit nasa labas ka, ayun, natutulungan mo pa rin ng mga farmers sa Pilipinas. So, I just want to invite po everyone kasi isa po sa, we usually have a theme every month. So ngayon po, Dr. Greg Del Pilar, sa August po ay i-celebrate po ng PAASE ang buwan ng wika. At sana
Yeah.
po you will be there, and then we will be inviting you po as one of the speakers. And of course, I hope Joanne could be there, and also kung sino may yung contact mo sa probinsya ay ma-discuss natin ng mas maayos yung initiative mo. So Sir Doc Greg, please anticipate po a letter of invitation from PAASE, since alam ko po na initiative to ni Mario that we've been really trying to celebrate buwan ng wika, 'di ba? August po 'yun, 'di ba po, sir? So
Tama.
this year po, matutuloy yon, and then hopefully makapagplano po tayo ng program na maayos, and then so welcome po kayo, sir, to give us suggestions para po mapaganda natin ang programa for the celebration of
Thank you, Gladys.
Yes, maraming salamat po. Oh, very exciting lahat, very inspiring. I hope the students got inspired with all the achievements of our scientists, women in science. So may tanong pa ba? May mga questions pa ba, Charlene, sa sa chat box? Best learning experience daw niya ang kabog millet. Yes, this is the first time I've heard also about kabog millet. Joanne, ang madaming natutunan mga tao from you. And
Thank you.
sorry, Joanne. I apologize. Ikaw ay associate member na ng PAASE and probationary because you haven't given a presentation yet. But since natapos na to, so full associate member ka na po ng PAASE.
Yay.
Okay.
Congratulations, Dr. Joanne. Thank you, Dr. Gladys. Thank you, everyone, for your thoughtful questions and engaging discussion. Medyo nanlamig yung kamay ko nung nagtagalog na sila lahat. But it was a worthwhile and very meaningful discussion. Your insights and perspectives have made this a truly valuable exchange.
Now, we would like to take a moment to recognize and thank our speakers for their contributions to today's event. Your knowledge and experience have been inspiring, especially, I think, for the young students who are watching this and are thinking about their future careers in STEM. As a token of our appreciation, we are awarding certificates of appreciation to honor the speakers and the impacts that they have made for today's program. The certificates include the following citations.
Certificate of Appreciation is presented to Lynn A. Barrion-Dupo, PhD, for serving as our speaker at the Global Women's Breakfast 2025 with the theme Accelerating Equity in Science, held on February 11, 2025, signed Dr. Gladys Charis J. Completo, PAASE President. Let us give again a round of applause or heart reactions for Dr. Barrion-Dupo.
Certificate of Appreciation is presented to Arlene Bartolome, PhD, for serving as our speaker at the Global Women's Breakfast GWB 2025 with the theme Accelerating Equity in Science, held on February 11, 2025. Signed, Dr. Gladys Charis J. Completo, PAASE President. Virtual applauses and hearts for Dr. Bartolome, please.
With the same citation, Certificate of Appreciation is presented to Dr. Joan Narciso for serving as our speaker at the Global Women's Breakfast. Signed, Dr. Gladys Cherise Completo, PAASE President. Let us give a warm round of virtual applause.
At this point, let us hear some insights from Ms. Vivienne G. Famador, President of the CMU Chemical Society, who will help us explore how we can translate today's valuable lessons into meaningful action within our communities.
So good morning, everyone. It is an honor to be here today as a student reactor for this inspiring event. So today we celebrate not just women in STEM, but the perseverance, passion, and resilience that drive progress in science. So Dr. Aimee Lynn spoke about entomology and inspiring the next generation of scientists, comparing curiosity to a seed that grows with encouragement. She cultivates young minds, showing that nurturing curiosity allows future scientists to thrive. And Dr. Arlene Bartolome, our second speaker, she shared her journey overcoming financial struggles, doubts, and challenges, especially pursuing chemistry. So she turned obstacles into motivation and even founding the Grand Map Philippines, which is a STEM membership network. And it clearly highlights her perseverance and showing accessible opportunities in science. And lastly, our third speaker, Dr. Joan Narciso, she discussed how curiosity leads to unexpected paths from chemistry to plant biology and even food science, exploring everything from bioactive compounds to food allergy research. So her journey shows that science is is an evolving adventure shaped by curiosity, collaboration, and exploration. So as a chemistry student, I find myself deeply inspired by these incredible women. Dr. Dupo reminds me of the importance of nurturing curiosity. Dr. Bartolome proves that resilience can break any barrier, and Dr. Narciso shows that science is limitless when we allow ourselves to explore. So their stories reaffirm that women, especially Filipinos, have a place in STEM, and not just as participants, but as leaders, innovators, and change makers. But beyond gender, accelerating equity in science means ensuring that opportunities exist for all, regardless of background, resources, or discipline. So whether through mentorship, advocacy, or simply creating a more inclusive environment, we indeed all have a role to play. So once again, a heartfelt thank you to our speakers for sharing your stories, providing valuable insights, and especially for inspiring us. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivian, for your insightful reflections. To bring our enriching session to a close, we're honored to welcome a champion of science education and equity in our community to share his final thoughts on today's discussions. No other than the chairperson of the CMU Chemistry Department, Mr. Miguel Angelito T. Lacasan. Over to you, Sir Miguel.
Sir, nakamute ka po.
Their journeys, challenges, and success remind us that achieving true inclusivity and representation in STEM is not just an inspiration, but a responsibility we all share. Today's discussion have highlighted the urgent need to break down the barriers, create opportunities, and ensure that every scientist, regardless of gender, background, or geography, has the support they need to thrive. Within research, industry, or academia, we must commit on fostering environments where innovation flourishes through diversity. On behalf of PAASE and everyone here, I extend my deepest gratitude to our distinguished speakers, organizers, and participants for making this event a success. It has carried forward the lessons we have learned today and active work toward a future where equity in science is not just accelerated but fully realized. Thank you, and may we continue to empower and uplift one another in the pursuit of knowledge and progress.
Thank you, Sir Meigs. And thank you to our distinguished speakers and guests for sharing your insights and expertise during today's session on accelerating equity in science. Your thoughtful contributions have helped advance this critical conversation. We'd love to commemorate this meaningful discussion with a group photo. Please turn your cameras on if you're comfortable so we can capture this moment together. The photo will be shared with all participants and may be featured in our event highlights. I do understand that we are around 85 participants in Zoom now, so we will be doing it per page. So smile lang tayo ng smile hanggang matapos lahat ng pages. And also, I would like to ask those who have their mugs with them, the GWB 2025 mugs, if you can raise it along with your beautiful smiles para makapture yung photo. All right, so let's start.
Page one
One,
po.
one,
Page one
two,
po.
three,
Let's go with first
smile.
frame.
Page one.
Going second.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, smile.
And last frame.
Page 3 po. 1, 2, 3, smile. Page 4. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay na po.
Thank you very much. Congratulations to CMU and the Institute of Chemistry, Los Baños and PAASE. Looking forward to the next GWB 2026, February 10.
Thank you to all and to the speakers.
Thank you, Anne.
Thank you. I will
Also,
send you a message. Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Also, please
Bye.
do not
Thank you.
forget to fill out our evaluation form. You may scan the QR code or click the link provided in the chat box or Facebook Live to access.
We want to take a moment to extend our sincere thanks to PASE President Dr. Gladys Completo, ma'am, and Ms. Febri Bless Esclares for making this event possible, and to Dr. Annabel Villalobos in the US and Ma'am Ellen Joy Pandan for facilitating this collaboration.
Once again, please do not forget to fill out our evaluation form. You may scan the QR code or click the link provided in the chat box or Facebook Live to access. Completion of the form will be the basis for your participation certificate. We'd also like to thank our organizing team, the Philippine American Society of Science and Engineering, the Central Mindanao University Chemistry Department, and the University of the Philippines Los Baños Institute of Chemistry for their incredible work in making today's session happen. We would also like to thank Central Mindanao University's Public Relations and Information Office for their media coverage for today's webinar. Without you, none of this would be possible.
Thank you, everyone, for your time and participation today. Together, we are advancing toward a future where equity in science is the norm. Stay engaged and let's continue to push for positive change in the scientific community.
Once again, I am Fable Ayuban Georgievsky of Central Mindanao University Chemistry Department.
I am Sofia Rain B. Monterola of the University of the Philippines, Los Baños.
And I am Charilyn E. Palpita Paclar of Central Mindanao University, wishing you a wonderful day ahead, and thank you again for being part of the Global Women's Breakfast 2025. To those who have their GWB 2025 mugs with them, can I request you to raise it one more time on your screen as we all together say with enthusiasm, On a count of three, this year's theme. 1, 2, 3. Accelerating creativity in science.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone, and
everyone,
have a
and have a
happy
happy
breakfast.
breakfast.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.